there, friends. Do you know what day it is? It is the happy day of the Valentine.
You mean Valentine's Day?
Yes, a wonderful holiday filled with the flowers and the candy.
And don't forget about love.
So romantic.
Today is the day I received the shipment from OddBodyFurbz. So if you haven't seen her on Instagram, definitely check her out. She does some wicked work with Furbies. They are absolutely adorable and they are super freaking cool. But I ordered a OddBodyFurbz and it is an octopus Furby. So out of the plastic, this is him. This is a octopus Furby and it is super cute. So absolutely adorable. So upon going through the bag, I actually realized there was more to the package. And then I've seen this on her Instagram. Looks like she actually draws little canvas art for every single one of her Furbies, which is a really cool touch. So if you haven't seen it, definitely head over to her Instagram, check it out. So the first thing we're going to do with this Furby is the same thing we're going to do with any Furby, it's just this one is a bit different. And that is, we are going to go ahead and open the circuit board. Now it was really cool because OddBodyFurbz went ahead and put a zipper behind this. And then this large portion is just a little pillow. So we could actually flip this back. Then this is going to act just like a normal Furby would, except it is going to be a little more complicated to get inside of. But we are good there. So these are the bolts we're going to be messing with. These are the bolts we're going to be taking out. And there are some up front too, so we might have to mess with this. It's quite a bit to get in here, but it will be worth it.
When we last saw Furby and Ede, they were in a submarine, trapped by an octopus.
Furby and Ede opened the hatch and took on the octopus. Wahoo! Furby yelled as the octopus swam off.
So cool enough, she actually left the face screws out of here. So we are able just to pull the Furby out, which makes our job 100 times easier. So these are the rest of the bolts we're going to be dealing with right here. I think there's 1 or 3 of them. Yep, there we go. So that is the internals of the Furby. And then you just got to watch the buttons, get the buttons fall out. This comes out. This a bit and try to get that out. There's actually it has been a while since I did one of these, so I'm actually really excited to get back into this. Alright, there's our shell. And the Furby is right here. I'm going to take this out to get to the circuit board. So if you ever have any trouble with Furbies or anything, there's a lot of tutorials online. So if you graph tutorials or like little pictures work better for you, there is a bunch of them online. Just look up how to circumvent Furbies and you will find a massive amount of information on it. Strange enough, this is a bit different than any of the other Furbies I've seen, and the reason that is because usually they have a motor here that lifts this board up and then the Furby actually pops up itself, which this model doesn't seem to it. I don't know where I came across this, but I believe it was like a secondhand store, and I have a couple laying around like this. So my guess here is going to be that there's probably a bolt in here. It looks like I may be wrong on that. Oh, no, actually I am. I am right. So the bolt is right here. And I'm thinking that is what is holding the board in and actually onto the Furby. Looks like we have 3 of them. This is quite cool because we're going to get to see if this type of Furby, this model of Furby, is any different than the other ones when it comes to bends. Alright, now the board is free. Go free, little board! Alright, so we got this open, and I'm going to mess with this and try to get the screw out so we don't lose it. But we will explore some bends.
Hey, I know. Maybe we could go exploring and find some way to help.
So I have a graph pulled up here, and I flipped it upside down to match our circuits. But as you can see, these circuits are exactly the same. So even though it's a different model, it looks like they did use the same board. At least from what we can see. So I'm using a pretty high resistance resistor right here. And we're going to see if we can actually go onto the glitch and use this, because if you've ever messed with a circuit at Furby, you'll know they really don't last that long. So really we're going for longevity, especially since it's just sewn into this beautiful plush doll right here. We want this instrument to last as long as possible, so if we can get away with a glitch, also using this, we're going to get a lot more life out of this. That doesn't seem to be giving us the effect that we're looking for. So we're going to go ahead and short circuit it like we would without the resistor. Okay, so it's definitely there. We just actually need to find a better resistor as well. Alright, so messing around with this, I came up with this resistor. Now this is only a 2.7K, but it's going to extend the life of the instrument, and that's really what we're going for, is we're going for the best effect and the longest life possible. So when we go here, you can see it is glitching out. So 2.7K still gives us that effect. Now the way you want to read this, so I'm actually going off this because Furbies can be quite flaky, and if you hit the wrong circuit, short circuit the wrong thing, they can fry a lot of times. When I first got started, I fried quite a few Furbies, and these online guides really helped me out. So if you're using an online guide, which I'm referencing right now, what you're going to look at is this common. So this common feeds onto both the glitch, as you've seen, that ends up with the glitch effect, and the common also feeds into all these loops. Now, all these loops, in my experience, do the same exact thing. So I only like putting on one loop, and this common is just going to be one wire. It's going to run to both of these. So if you're feeding this out into an outbreak box or however you're doing it, you only need 3 wires. You need one on the loop, one on the common, one on the glitch, and these connect out. Now what we do want to test out is we do want to test if this 2.7K could actually run on the loops as well. And in that case, if it could, what we would like to do is we would like to put this on the common wire, and now would actually allow both of the bends to not actually do as much damage as they would if we were just normally short circuiting it. Now, how we're going to test that is really simple. We're just going to put it right back on the common right here. We're going to tag it right onto this one. Now, as you can see, it's actually acting almost as like a glitch effect. Now, that is going to be very, very common. These loops actually do feed into glitches. So if you see any other circuit but Furby, the reason they tend to loop into glitches is simply because they do. So if it's glitching out, that's perfectly fine. You can see that it was actually freezing. Put it right back on. So there you go. So you have your freeze effect, which also in this little tutorial guide I'm referencing is being called a loop, but I always called it a freeze effect, and that's really what we're getting there. So this 2.7K is definitely going on the common. Let's get this thing some longevity of life. So now that we have these soldered on, we are going to go ahead and test our points out on the other side of this wire and make sure it works. You see, that's acting as a brake module. There we go.
Well, they were all broken.
So the next thing we're going to add is a master on and off switch. And the master on and off switch is pretty simple. We're just going to be desoldering this, and this is the master power wire. So it feeds all the power into the circuit board. We're just going to be desoldering that, and then instead we're going to put a switch on it with our own things. Now, if you've noticed, I didn't speak of this before, but if you notice, I am using a longer wire. Now, this wire is sort of ridiculously long, but we are going to be using a breakout box on this. And when it comes to breakout boxes, I've always found that using a longer wire than necessary to start out until you get it all retrofitted in is a lot better of an idea than possibly ending up too short and having to add extensions later on, because extensions don't always look out great, especially if you were using a clear breakout box or anything. Even like mid-wire, extensions just don't look that great. So we are using this because we are adding a breakout box. But with that being said, what we're going to be doing is, for the master on and off switch, just desoldering right here, and we are going to be adding on an extension right here and using heat shrink wrap to actually secure that. Alright, so we have the master on and off switch put on, and for the time being, this is not going to be able to turn on without this being put on. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this a bit shorter, and the reason we are cutting this shorter is because we do have these open wire glitches, and the last thing we want is for these to actually tag onto these, because they're not meant to have the entire battery power put into the circuit board on that specific place, so that's just asking for the Furby to get fried. So we're going to shorten up these wires a bit, and just to be on the safe side, I'm going to shorten them a bit more. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and twist these wires together, and this is going to act as if the Furby is on and our on switch is currently on. If you're wondering why I don't go to the trouble of putting the switch on right now, it's because this wire is probably going to end up shorter. We also have to feed it through the bottom of the Furby or wherever we're going to feed it out through. And this is just going to be a lot easier than actually putting a switch on, considering those two things. Alright, so the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding LEDs to this. Now always remember the LEDs by these two wires running down. So we have positive and negative running down right here to the back of the Furby. And then typically on the Furbies I work on, there are 4 points that are right here just lined up on the side of the Furby. And then they are reverse polarity. So 2 of the points, you have to flip the LED to make them work on the other 2 points, if that makes any sense. And it actually seems like these points are present on this board, they're just in a different position. So you have right here, you can see that's giving us a good effect. Now if I flip this LED around, that will crash the board. So on these other two, I'm going to flip them right here, since it worked on the last one, and you can see that the Furby is functioning correctly. We have the LED. So this is what I use for the 2 eyes on the Furby. So it's these 4 points right here, and if you're doing a different type of Furby, you'll see there's actually 4 points right here, and you should be able to get a good effect off of those.
Let's go!
the LEDs inside the eyes. Now you can do this with a Furby with an outbreak box, without an outbreak box. We're running a couple LEDs on this. We're actually going to be running LEDs inside the outbreak box as well. But very simply, using these 4 points that we solder onto, we're going to feed this LED out. Let me wrap this up real quick. So we're just going to feed this out. It's going to go underneath of the eye. So, when you feed it up underneath of the eye, what you want to do is you want to make it, you can kind of see how the eye mechanics work is there's not too much space back here. You really want it to kind of go in here and then not interfere with the space, because pretty much your Furby will look like the Furby you wouldn't want other Furbies hanging out with if he looked like that. We'll just say that. So you want the LED stuck inside of here, and then it's okay for it to be slightly sideways. It's going to give a little bit of a weirder backlight, but in my opinion it looks perfectly fine as compared to head on. So messing around with it, I noticed that this is only giving us blue and white, meaning this LED is probably getting way too much power into it. So what we're going to do on this Furby is we are going to go ahead and put a 100K resistor on this. And then the 100K resistor should, and does, allow us to hit the full color spectrum on this Furby. Because color changing LEDs are a lot cooler than white and blue ones that will eventually burn out in time.
Ooh, perfect!
Nearing the end of our necessary bends here. So what the last thing we are going to be putting on this is a Prosound. And if you've seen my videos before, you know exactly how to do this, and you know exactly where we're going with this. So the Prosound is just going to be these two wires right here. With the Furby, it's a bit different because it's actually mixed in with quite a few different wires. But we can see the spiral runs out here, and then we're dealing with our orange and brown wires on this one. So this can be a bit confusing to look at. This is actually a button. If you look underneath here, this metal piece right here actually taps onto this metal piece, and that's what causes the button, you know, the tickling, all that stuff. But we're going to be dealing with these guys. Now, on here, you're going to be looking, there's a group of 4. So we're looking for the brown and orange one. That's going to leave us right here, and then right here. So they are separated, but it's these two right here. So that is all the bends we are going to be adding to this Furby. So let's go ahead and twist this up to just kind of combine the wires a bit better. And we're going to put this back up here. Now we are going to need a place for this Furbz's wires to actually feed out. And where we're going to do it at is we're actually going to do it like right here. So the goal here is you want the wires to be able to feed out successfully, but not interfere with any of the functions on the actual Furby. So we're going to drill out right here. Probably want to go a little bit larger than that. Alright. So let's go ahead and see if we can feed all these wires through here. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut through here just so nothing interferes. So that's some fun stuff. Alright, so now we have that end off there. So let's go ahead and feed this through. Alright, now that's all of our wires right there. Now we're just going to kind of bend them, try to fit all of them in there, and fit this microphone back in. And putting the shell back on Furbys is always the trickiest part. Regardless of how you mount them, once you put a couple bends on them, they kind of get a bit tricky. You just got to shove the wires back down. We are going to go ahead and shorten the wire, measure it out for the outbreak box, and we are also going to go ahead and secure the wire a bit better. So ideally what you'd want to do is you'd want to actually tie these wires in a couple knots on the inside here. We may not have that option just because of how thick these wires are, and then really just how we fed them through. It actually does look like we might have that option. We'll just have to do it a bit differently. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, since we have extra length on the wire, is roll this up. I'm just going to try to make some knots in this way. And then what this essentially is doing is just protecting the wire from actually getting pulled out. So you really just want it knotted up to a good distance where it's not going to get pulled out of this hole that we fed it through. So just any way we can do that. So as horrible as that looks, it actually looks pretty good, and we can just go ahead and wire tie that. And I think we will be good. And then the second thing I'm going to do is go ahead and put a little bit of hot glue through here. So the hot glue works really, really well on just not letting it move around out of the case. Because what you definitely don't want to do is get a good use out of this and then have the wires pull out and then have to reopen it. So it can absolutely be a pain. Now, as far as wire distance, this is really preference. It is however far you want to go. On this one, I'm not really wanting it to go too super far, so I'm just going to go about right here. So we're just going to cut, and notice I do have the batteries out on this because this will be short-circuiting it in quite a few different ways. We're just going to cut the wire right there. And then that should give us enough length to actually run our outbreak box, and then still be a bit of a distance away from the Furby. So our outbreak box will be about right here. Then we are going to go ahead and put some shrink wrap on this. And this isn't so much of extra security as it really just looks better, in my opinion. You know, this is obviously optional, but we're just going to feed this through. So outbreak boxes are a pretty simple concept. Essentially what I'm doing here is I think this used to be a mini jewelry box that I found in a secondhand store, and I ripped all the little shelving and stuff out of it, and then this is where we're going to actually be putting all of our switches and everything. So we have all of our electronics and stuff running from here, and then we're going to be running all the switches and stuff off to here. So outbreak boxes are very, very useful, especially when you're running projects that don't really have that much room, or when they're plush dolls and there's not really, you know, too much room to mount, or if they're just way too cute to mount stuff on. So that's why we're running this jewelry box right here. And these are really cool because you can decorate them, you can paint them, you can do whatever you want. All your switches are going to be right here. In this case, this is clear, so we should be able to run some LEDs inside of here. But that is essentially an outbreak box. So all the wires run through here. I use some heat shrink wrap through here. And this is our outbreak box. This is where all the switches are on. So as you just heard, the Furby actually was glitching out, and it was glitching out pretty hard. And I went ahead and did it off camera, but I pulled the batteries out and everything, because if your instrument is actually glitching out and you didn't initiate the glitch, definitely go ahead and turn it off, because you really want to know where that glitch is coming from. Obviously it's coming from these three, but I don't know what they touched, and that is the danger of having open wires like this, which I warned about at the beginning. But I was just going through here, and honestly I wasn't even planning on having it on, but sometimes you just have things happen, and you know, it was on just because I was wanting it to run. But that is the danger of having open wires. So if you're not recording a video or doing anything like that, I would recommend personally not having the instrument on at all times, especially when you're like soldering into a box like this. If you're going to have open wires, if you know what the wire schematics are and you actually like written it down and stuff, pretty much what I'm saying is there are some safety precautions you can take before that. But if you ever have a glitch go on and you didn't do it, I would probably recommend going ahead and shutting the instrument off. That way you can isolate that glitch and know where it's actually coming from. Next thing we're going to be doing is planting these LEDs. Now I am going to actually add one more LED to this one, but we're going to go ahead and mount these two inside the box here. Now to mount the LEDs, I do have the Furby on. That's just so we can see it, and it's kind of just for looks. But this is just a really simple thing that I'm going to be doing, and it's hot gluing down here. Now, what you could actually do with these LEDs, if you have a very, very low grade sandpaper, you can actually go over the outside of these LEDs. And then what that's going to do is it's going to even the shine out a bit, and it's going to make the shine less focused like this, and it's going to make it shine out more to the side. I don't have a grade LED or a low grade sandpaper with me, but it is a trick that I use with Game Boys quite frequently. So if you do have one, those are always pretty cool. So we're just putting a tiny bit of hot glue down here, and then I'm going to put a little bit over the actual open wire here. And we're just going to wait till that dries for a second. Alright, now we're going to do the other one right here. Alright, and that one should be dry as well. Now, you may have noticed that the other one actually went out. The LED itself actually did not go out. What's going on here is the Furby is actually asleep right here. And when the Furby's asleep, the LED's off. So how we're going to fix that is simply tip them upside down, wake him back up. Now the LED back on. So the next thing we're going to do is add all the glitches. So the glitches are kind of getting hard to find on the internet, but they have a good graph. It's actually a really simplistic concept, and I drew up a little graph for you because these are kind of getting hard to find. But realistically, you can go, which I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to be going off these two switches. So this may look a bit complex, but essentially what we're doing is our median's right here, it's the red. And then all this we're doing is we're running our median to both of these switches. So if you cut out this button, it gets a lot more simplistic. So you just have the blue running to the red, or the blue and the red on one switch, the green and the red on the other switch. And if you want to farther complicate things, since this is your free switch, you can go ahead and run a button on it as well, because buttons are actually pretty fun to run on free switches. They act a little bit better than the actual switches do. But that's essentially all we're doing right there. And then in this one, we actually used our blue, our dark blue as the median. So very simply, I'm just going to put that on, and then we're just going to run 2 switches on this. So the last thing we're going to be doing is adding this 1/4 jack, and you probably thought that maybe this 1/4 jack is probably too big for this box, and you would be correct. So this last part, I guess you can say, is a bit of a tribute. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I did another Furby called Dead Disco. And Dead Disco, one of the main things was he had a 1/4 jack, and it was encapsulated in a pill bottle. So I thought it'd be super cool to go ahead and take another pill bottle and mount it on to this outbreak box for this Furby, just as kind of like a shout out to one of my older videos. So we're going to be trying to mount this, and it's not going to be super sturdy as of yet. I plan on going back in, adding more LEDs and upgrading this Furby quite a bit, but for right now we're just going to be mounting this on and putting the 1/4 jack into it.
I love happy endings.